Hi there, it's Laura here from Get Organized HQ, and I want to share one of my really strange organizing tricks with you. Now, I've casually mentioned this in some videos before, but I've never made a video just about it, and I know it's a little bit unique and strange, but I find it really helpful, so I'm going to share it with you now. This is something that I use on these shelves behind me, but I also use this pretty much anywhere that I'm organizing. And when you look at these shelves, you think, well, that's a shelf full of a lot of stuff. But one thing you may not notice unless you look really, really closely is that some of those white bins are labeled empty. So that literally means they are empty. They have nothing in them. And yes, I do often, when I label things, I even put a label on them that says empty. I know that seems a little bit odd, but let me explain. So when it comes to organizing, there are really two components, and I talk about this a lot. There's the component of like getting everything set up, and that's actually the easier thing. And then there's the component of keeping it up on a day-to-day basis. So even if you could hire a whole bunch of professional organizers to come into your home or come into your office and make something look organized, that's only step one. Step two is keeping it that way on a consistent basis. So if you come back in a few months or a year or two, it still is organized. And this, having these empty bins or empty spaces, is what helps tremendously in keeping it organized. The first reason is that very rarely do we have a situation where nothing new ever comes in. Like, if you set up your office, what if you had one thing of paper Post-it notes, and then you buy a stack more? Where do those go? Or what if you take up a new craft, or more things are going to constantly come in? So you're going to want to make sure that you have some empty spaces. Now, it is up to you whether you label them. I agree that is a little bit strange, but the reason I like to label them is a couple things. Number one, I just think it looks better. I like all of my bins to have consistent labels, so I think it doesn't look as good if like one doesn't have a label at all. Although if that doesn't bother you, more power to you, you don't need to label it. The second thing is I like to commit to what I'm organizing and consciously decide this is an empty bin. So it makes it feel complete and like I have made this decision. It's not missing something. It's not waiting for something. I have consciously made the decision to leave it empty so that I have room to grow. So in practical terms, this means that when I come with something extra, I can just toss it in one of the empty bins. I don't have to leave stacks and piles of things sitting somewhere. It also means that if I get something else, I don't have to overhaul my entire system. I have some spaces where it will go. Now, I want to caution you when you're using this method that you don't use this as an excuse to keep too much stuff. So sometimes if you feel like you have a lot of extra space, it can be tempting to keep bringing things in without getting rid of things. This is not an excuse to hang on to things that you don't use and love or to hang on to clutter. So make sure when you do this, you're not using that as an excuse. I still regularly look through these items and I'm regularly like emptying bins because I no longer need those items. So it's still not replacing the need to constantly edit. And really, generally speaking, this applies anywhere. So obviously, I use the example of this office shelf, but it applies in the kitchen, it applies in your closet, in your bathroom, in your file cabinet. If it's crammed full and there's no other place for paper to go, that's not a good thing. So embrace those empty spaces and leave room for yourself to grow. Now, one little bonus tip I want to share with you is that in some spaces in my house, in addition to having some empty space, I also have a bin labeled inbox. So we think of inboxes for like our digital mail or even physical mail, but use it for everything. For example, I have a pretty good sized one in my closet. So when I go shopping and I buy something new, especially like makeup or toothpaste or toothbrushes, a lot of times when I get home, I don't really have the time or energy to like put it away exactly where it goes. So I toss it in that inbox, and then ever so often I will go put those items away where they go. Or sometimes I have like a brand new class of item and it's gonna take a little bit longer to figure out where it goes. So inboxes are my solution to that. So like closets, offices, all of those types of spaces, wherever you can use an inbox concept, it's really going to make it to where you don't need to set those like random piles down, or you don't have to just shove things, kind of hide them away in cabinets or closets in a disorganized manner. Instead, you have a controlled inbox and then you can go through it at your own pace. If you enjoyed this video, I think you're gonna love my entire playlist where I review some of my top organizing products, including those bins and things that you see behind me. So go ahead and click right there to go start watching that.